So it'll be a week ago tomorrow that I lost my job, and I was kind of a jackass about it and posted some tweets that are connected to my Facebook, which Mom is a friend. And so I'm pretty sure that she knows and that she wants to talk to me about it, and I've blatantly been ignoring her phone calls all week.
Yeah.
And her texts that ask if I'm okay. Like, I don't know if she thinks I'm on, like, some suicidal tear or what.
Yeah. She texted me earlier today, right after you didn't answer your phone. She texted me, "Is your brother okay? I can't seem, number 2, get a hold of him." That was at 11:36 a.m., and then 2 hours later, she types me back, "Are you there?"
Yeah, so she's
You can
clearly
guess how she
concerned about
spelled
the both of
R
us.
and U. She got the correct there, though.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
1 in 3 chance. I guarantee it wasn't intentional.
So she's worried about you. I'm sure she knows that you're not at work because she hasn't seen you on IM or anything either.
That's true, but I could be blocking her.
Yeah.
Before I got fired, I was seriously questioning it almost every day, because what she does is she jumps on IM during my work shift and talks about how much she misses her granddaughter, your daughter, and how she wishes she could see her more often, when she should know full and well why she's not allowed to see her.
It's not even that she's not allowed to see her. It's
Is
just
it?
We're never over there. Why would we go over there?
Why don't you ever invite her here?
If she was in town, it would be much tougher, because that would be awful having them all come over here.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
They're not
though.
going to have any money. She's going to be wanting to drink the whole time.
Yeah, it's a big mess every time. But plus, we'll get into this, but your granddaughter's pretty terrified of her.
Yeah.
Not your granddaughter.
My daughter, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to call Mom back now, if I can get the speakerphone to work.
All right. Let's hear the real person.
The second it starts to get annoying for me, I'm gonna find an excuse to hang out.
Okay. You think she might be at work and that's why she's texting?
She wouldn't be yet. She's got like a half hour before work.
Oh, wow. You really know Mom's schedule.
That's a little embarrassing, I guess.
She might be out selling Avon.
Is she doing that now?
She posted a MySpace bulletin about it.
That's
And she
clearly
said-
for extra money, yeah?
It was Avon calling, but if you look at her last tweet, which was a joke about selling Avon, which was actually pretty funny,
I know, she's not bad on Twitter.
she spelled Avon wrong there.
Oh, she did? Yeah, you got to know what you're selling, Mom.
Yeah. All right, so let's give her a call then. We'll put her on speaker. Hopefully it won't be too shitty. Are you going to tell her you're here? I don't want to talk to her. You should talk about Sophie.
I'm not going to talk about Sophie. That's fucked up. About how adorable she is, how I spent the whole week with her. Yeah, maybe I will. Hold on. Hey, Mom, how are you?
Good. Haven't heard from you forever. How you doing?
Yeah, I know. You've really been a mess lately. I'm sorry I haven't written you back.
You been what lately?
Nothing. How are you?
Good.
Good. Anything on your mind, or you just been trying to get a hold of me? It's not my birthday till next month.
It is kind of about your birthday next month. What, you got plans?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go camping that weekend with some friends.
Yeah, but you can. What about on the 27th?
27th might be open for me. I'll have to check my schedule. Just kidding. What were you thinking? Do you want me to go over there? You guys going to come to Seattle or what?
Actually, we're kind of thinking about having a party here because we're,
A party at your place?
Devin's bringing Brooke and just looking at Peyton, and it's like Devin's birthday is like the day right after Vincent.
They're-
It's a family reunion day.
Oh, okay. So is it like a?
We're gonna have like a birthday party for like
Is that the family reunion you were telling me about before, or no?
family thing, yeah.
Okay, so Devin's going to be there. Is Daniel and Diana going to be there too? I heard.
Daniel's not going to be able to make it because he has to work, and I don't think Diana's going to come either, but her baby's going to come.
Oh yeah. Who's bringing the baby?
Devin's going to bring her baby.
Oh, okay. Has she come by to pick up Peyton yet?
Huh?
Is Peyton still there, or has Devin come to pick him up?
Yeah, he's still here, but she's coming to pick him up that weekend.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can definitely come. Are you guys thinking of barbecue or something?
Yeah, we're just going to have good barbecue and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, if I can afford it, I'll definitely come there. I thought you were going to call me because I lost my job.
You lost your job.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it now, but I thought maybe you saw a Facebook update or something. So I got fired for behavioral issues, and I won't be working there anymore.
What are you going to do?
I don't know, look for another job, I imagine. Or collect unemployment for as long as I can.
So how are you going to survive until then?
I'll be fine. I have enough money to stay at my apartment for a little while.
I'm sorry. I hope I didn't have anything to do with that.
How would you have anything to do with that?
I don't know. Bugging you at work or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, only I'd say 20% of it was that. Just kidding. Anyway, I'm fine. I was actually in Yakima for most of the week hanging out with Sophie, but I'm going back today, so.
You're really digging.
And tell PJ about it, too, because we want PJ to come.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely run it by him.
Devin's really forward to seeing you guys.
Yeah, it's been a long while. What's she doing for work now? I forget.
I think she's a waitress.
Oh, okay.
But she wants to hang out.
What is that noise in the background?
Party or whatever you guys do.
It sounds like a party over there. What's going on in the background?
That's just Kate. It's wild.
Is he getting antsy? How long has he been there now?
2 weeks. He's
How's-
okay. Him and Melissa. He's kind of driving Melissa crazy.
Oh, I would have thought the other way around. Okay, well, what's that?
But I just want to make it's okay. I just want to make sure you're alright because I haven't heard from you in so long.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you checking in. I'm fine.
Okay, and tell people that if you talk to him today, tell him the party's going to be on the 26th.
PJ, it's going to be on the 26th?
Saturday the 27th.
Okay.
And you guys have to come. Okay.
All right, yeah. I'm sorry?
Tell them to bring Alvina and Sophie too, because there's going to be kids here.
Of course. If PJ comes without Sophie, that's just a letdown.
Yeah.
All right, Mom, well, I got to go catch my bus.
Okay.
Okay? But tell everybody I said hi.
Put it on your calendar then.
Will do. I'll tell PJ too.
Okay, then keep in touch. I'll talk to you before that.
All right.
Okay, love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye, Mom.
I knew she was going to sucker me into an I love you at the end. Did she try that with you?
I don't think so. There was a lot of times when I never said it back, so rebellious.
You mean right over the phone?
I'd tell Alvina too. I'd be like, I didn't even say it back.
When I used to try and piss off a girlfriend, like if we were in a fight or I was doing my passive-aggressive, I hate you and I'm not telling you why thing, I would do that same thing where they would say, I love you, and then I pretend I don't hear it, and I'm like, okay, bye. And then I hang up.
I'm like on the other side of the asshole where I'm like, I love you, just to like try to make her feel uncomfortable about saying it back.
But she always does, right?
Yeah. No, actually, Alvina's pretty good about just hanging it up if she's mad. She lets you know.
Yeah. Tell me about
She
it.
doesn't play my bullshit mind.
Although that's not true. You guys had your little scuffle a few days ago, and it came to you guys not being open with each other for the better part of the day, and then a screaming phone call in which you were crying at the end.
Why? It was not a screaming phone call. I don't know.
I thought it was so funny because I was here in the apartment with you, and you went into the bathroom to talk to her.
I was taking
and
a
then I
shit.
felt bad because I could hear every word.
I was taking a shit. You could seriously hear everything?
Yeah, I like that one of your points of reference too. Like when you write,
Oh my God.
you're most heated. You're like, and then I come in here to take a shit and call you. I was like, she doesn't need that visual.
Did I really say that? Wow, that's awful.
Sorry.
That's embarrassing. The whole thing turned out that we were too competitive at Scrabble, and Nico was here for the whole first night.
Oh, that was partly my fault because I had the Scrabble board out already.
No, I'm not even talking about, because you played Scrabble with Nico.
Most of the day, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like crowding up Alvina's living space with Nico, who's... I like Nico. Hope he comes back to the show for a third time. Pretty sure some of the stuff he was using weren't real words.
And he would just say, no, dude, it is.
Yeah,
it
and I'm
is."
not going to argue with him. I don't know him that well.
Interesting.
I still beat him both times. It's have we talked about Scrabble yet? And Alvina's being mad at us?
I think we touched on it a
Okay.
little bit.
I just want her to understand, if she's listening, that I don't have a competitive streak within me. Like, everything I'm saying, I'm trying to make people laugh, which I realize can be obnoxious, and more is probably the actual problem. But she said she couldn't play with us anymore because I was too competitive, and what, you were an asshole?
I'm an asshole, yeah.
Which is the same thing, is it?
I get really mad when I lose because I guess I am kind of competitive when it comes to games like that. I don't really care if I lose at poker, but if I lose at gin rummy to Alvina, like I'll quit like halfway. We're supposed to halfway through, like we were gonna play for. And with Scrabble, I really like to win. She's never beat me, but
She beat me yesterday.
I rub it in when I win.
But only
And she takes so long to take her turn that that's when I get irritated.
I don't know. Have you told her that? Because when we played alone, after she said she wasn't going to play with me anymore, she asked. I knew not to push it, but I really wanted to play because we were waiting for you to get off of work. We were there for hours.
Yeah.
And so she pulls out the Scrabble board, and she did take a while with each word, but it looked like she was working on that consciously.
Maybe. I don't know. She has to know she took forever. I never told her.
Well, because you're always calling the timer on her.
Right, just when we're playing. I've never taken her aside and said, "Look, your Scrabble game takes way too long."
I thought maybe
I'm
that
not
was your...
that into it. Once the game is over, it's over for me and for you.
Yeah.
But she carries some of the insults with her.
Yeah, and
they're always words you've never heard of. She's just looking up in the dictionary anything she can spell with these letters.
But hearing it back, maybe she's right that we are a little hard on her. I don't know. Because I talk match. I play a lot in Seattle with my friend Margaret, and we play pretty much every day. But it's always heads up. It's not 3 people. So either we're watching a shitty movie at the same time, or I'm insulting her. I guess I do that in my everyday life when I hang out with her also. But it's a lot of back and forth. Why we're not fucking, I don't know. You have to ask Dad. I don't know how much of that mom phone call is usable. We're going to have to...
Yeah.
It is pretty captivating that I told her I'd lost my job over the phone for everybody to hear. She didn't even know how to react.
It seemed like she wasn't reacting right, so you were throwing all the really big digs out there. You eventually said, "Oh, I've just been spending the week with Sophie."
Yeah, I know. I was showing off for you. But I think I'd mentioned when shortly before we got on the phone with her, so 4 minutes ago, that Sophie is kind of terrified of her own grandma. I didn't really notice that until a few weeks ago when we hung out with her.
I think she would be afraid of any aggressive stranger, which really is what Mom is when she's around Sophie.
That's true.
Sophie hasn't seen her very much, so she doesn't know her, and then it's just hugs and kisses and pictures and pose for pictures, nothing candid,
Right.
Sit here and put your arm around Melissa and be kissing Vincent on the cheek, 18-month-old.
But going way back when Sophia was first born, and I came with Mom and Vincent and Melissa out here to the house, she was only a few weeks old, I think, at the time. And Mom pulls out her bottle of rum and her disposable camera and gets right up in her face with the flash at not even a month old.
There were so many people here.
She's been that way from the beginning. She has not learned how to calm down.
Yeah. Lori and Janine were at the apartment. There were so many people here. That was the worst night. It was so awful. Melissa kept wanting to hold the baby, and Mom kept drinking rum. She never stopped. Now, granted, we were all drinking, except for Alvina, but Mom was the most out of control and drinking the most.
Yeah. She really loves her rum, and that so much so that she carries it around with her literally almost everywhere. Mm-hmm. And we'd made arrangements to see her a few weeks ago at the Seattle Center, and I'll just put it out there. Mom has ruined the Seattle Center for me.
Yeah.
Much like she did as a kid, but I eventually got over that. Now it's all just flooding back into my head. But
you know what it reminded?
How long had it been? I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I was just going to say it reminded me of the first time we ever met Vincent when we were forced together with Vincent. We were pretty much in the same place because I remember ending up at the Seattle Center, and me and Melissa went to the top of the Space Needle.
Oh, that's right. God, how much that put you back.
With Vincent and Melissa there, it was really a walk down memory lane.
Yeah.
And then,
quick story on that same trip. The first time we met Vincent, we may have talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
Did we? Is that what that is?
I think so.
About how uncomfortable
train spotting pictures, and
even before that, though, when you had ditched me and I was stuck at the table with Vincent in the food court, and he starts telling me about his Army days, and I am not the guy to talk to about that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've covered this.
Yeah,
my bad.
I think that was in the same food court we were in this last time, right? Because that's while I was up in the Space Needle.
Yeah. So Mom's big reason for wanting to see Sophie, because like you've already said, Sophie only sees her every so often. And that's conscious, whether you think so or not. You always say, I'm not keeping my daughter from Mom, but you kind of are.
No, it's not that I'm saying, I don't want her to see the baby. It comes down to I don't want to see her. I don't want to go visit because it's horribly awkward and I hate every second of it. I'm not going to send Sophie there on her own.
No.
So that's why she's not seeing Sophie. It's not like I'm actively keeping, it's not like I don't want my granddaughter around her. It's just that I don't want to be around her.
And you have to be around her in order for mom to
Right.
be around her.
Exactly.
And just getting into their home life a little bit, because her big reason why you need to bring Sophie out to Seattle.
BT Dubs, like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but like in a
I'm
year,
sorry that you said BT Dubs.
when she's like 3 years old, like, I'd be more than willing to send her with you for a visit to mom.
Okay, well, that's good to know. What makes you think I want to go to mom's? Because you're bailing.
I'm just saying that if you ever wanted to do it, you could. Like this.
Although I
party
am the
you're
better
going to.
son of the two in the sense that I will send her a Happy Mother's Day text.
Yeah, and you're going to this party on the 27th.
No, I'm not. I just said that to get off the phone. But like, let's give people an idea of mom's home life.
Okay, but we're also going into the reason she wanted
I know,
us
which-
and Sophie to come.
Yes.
All right, it's going to be one thing that we get back to.
You have issue with bringing your daughter to mom's actual house. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, everything is something that I don't want Sophie touching or picking up.
And not because mom's an antique collector. It's because everything is covered in dog hair.
It's different from when we visit Lori's house and we don't want to touch her
Yeah.
to touch anything.
And mom wasn't always the worst housekeeper, I want to say. Like, remember that house? You're barely old enough to remember, but that house on Orchard, the greenhouse?
Yeah.
With the huge yard. Mom, it was only like 3 bedrooms. It was easy enough for her to keep up, and I don't think she'd lost ambition for life at that point. Probably quite yet.
Yeah, no, not at all. And not to always bring it back to that, but she also wasn't a drinker back then.
Yeah. Which plays a big part
Yeah.
now, I'm sure. But, like, they've lived in this house for, I don't know. I'm trying to measure by how many cars have been repoed from that yard.
The house they're in now.
Yeah. Probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it was a fine house in the beginning from what I recall. But I'm willing to put it out there that in the 4 or 5 years that they've lived at that house, the yard has never been cut.
Wow.
The lawn. Like, it's piled literally up to almost Melissa's height in the backyard. And they have a pool that's just buried with mold and grass. And
You know what's amazing is how they could like take a weekend and clean that all up.
I know.
You know what
like
I mean?
One
It's
long
not too
weekend
late.
probably, but
Yeah.
still. It is too late though. Like the carpet is just trash, and like those things are
I meant
replaced.
the backyard specifically.
Okay.
The whole place needs more than a weekend.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so the yard's gross. Like they've just got like trash out in their yard, like a Hicks yard sale, except for with no sign. That's what it feels like when you walk up there. And the basketball hoop's all rusted out and broken, but it's still there because nobody wants to take it off anywhere. So it's just gross. And I think what makes it grosser than anything at this point is it's a small house. They all live out of that living room, and they have a huge dog who I feel bad for because it's just, I wouldn't say it's mistreated except for Melissa and her aggresso retard thing that she does. But aside from that, like the dog is just not well kept. Like
Right there
it had been
is
years, Mom
mistreatment.
stated when I was there, that since they had cleaned Chubbs.
Yeah.
And he's not a
it's-
self-cleaning dog like Lori's.
Right. It's not like there's a farm with sprinklers that it's going to go wash up in.
Right.
It stays inside.
All the time, and it gets right up in your face. And I think this is in the Lost episode, so it's safe to say. But the dog, last time I was there, which was maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago now, it comes up to me, and I feel bad for it. I really do, because it is a nice, lovable dog. It's just that nobody wants to touch it because it hasn't been kept up. And so he comes up to me, and I'm like, all right, I'll pet you, and then immediately wash my hands. And he puts, like, his snout right up in my face, and his eyes are completely crudted over. Like, you can't even see out of them. Like, it's just hardened grossness. I don't know what it was, but it had obviously been that way for a long time. And he can barely see. And I was freaked out, of course, because I wasn't prepared for this, and he looked like a demon dog, like right up in my face. But I asked Mom about it, and that's when she told me that Vincent really needs to give him a bath. I was like, yeah, he really does. This dog is probably dying from his eyes.
Yeah, that's fucking sick.
Dying
And it's
from his
disgusting.
eyes? You haven't heard of that?
Because doesn't Melissa still pet the dog and love the dog and stuff?
Yeah, Melissa will pet and love on anything she can.
Oh.
I can't believe she hasn't lost her virginity yet.
Why don't they make her give the dog a bath?
I don't know. Yeah, you think she'd dig that. Although, God, can you imagine the drains after that? That thing just sheds the second you look at it. Anyway, so it's just really gross, and I understand you're not wanting your daughter around there.
Yeah.
Like, everything is just covered in filth.
Yeah, when we do go to meet, it's like, let's meet. Like, this whole time, they knew we were coming for a couple weeks. We never knew where we were going to meet or anything like that, but I was thinking, like, what parks are there in Seattle?
I don't know
where that costs money. Let's go to the Seattle Center where we can put them
anywhere
on
where
rides.
we're not obligated to go to Tacoma or to Mom's house, which is like I've learned now when I go to Tacoma to visit Mom, which is infrequently. I always ask to meet at a restaurant or something now. Yeah, let's get lunch, and then I gotta
That
go.
sounds like the worst idea to me.
Oh yeah, they're a mess at restaurants,
Yeah.
to be sure. One more thing about being at that house, because I know you don't experience it nearly as often as I used to, but like even like Mom insists on cooking when I come because she wants to be mom-like for a day, I guess, because I know they eat out of bags most of the time,
Right.
Much like a little trough for each of them. But like she'll be cooking, and then everything that's floating in that gross air is just like sucking itself into the food.
Yeah.
So I can't even. That's why I have to meet them at restaurants now. I can't even imagine what I'm gonna find when I cut into my gross undercooked steak. You know?
Yeah, it's true. We went and had like some kind of Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner there, didn't we? In the last couple of years,
God, I hope
before
not.
Sophie.
If so, I've blocked it. Oh, before Sophie.
Yeah.
Then quite possibly.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was really bad.
Yeah.
That's the last time I was probably even there that I saw their yard or anything. Although, did we ever bring Sophie to their house before?
It seems like you
think
may
we
have
did,
one
yeah.
time, but you guys were. She must have been really young.
Yeah.
At which point you have an excuse to hold her and shield her mouth anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so how long most I may have already asked, but how long most recently since Mom had seen Sophie before this last time?
I have no idea.
Not for her lack of trying again, though.
They've seen her like probably a total of 3 or 4 times. Most of that is coming over here.
And just as a reminder, how old is Sophie?
She's 20 months.
Okay. So once out of every, what, three months?
I guess.
What, seven?
No.
Seven.
Like, don't make me do math. Like 5 months, once every 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say Dad sees her more or less often than Mom?
Dad has seen her less.
Less.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because
Dad-
Dad's not trying as hard, first of all.
We took her to Dad's work that time.
I know we were at the house one time.
You
I
know,
was still
that's
dating
tough.
a pincushion, and we were all sitting around the table and passing around Sophie, I remember.
Where at his
At
house?
Dad's house, yeah.
Right. There was that. We took her to the work. They came here right when she was born, and then I think he came one solo time, so that's 4 times for him.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess it about evens out. But not because you're scared of going to see Dad.
No.
I'm sure you are, but
Yeah,
not
I
in the
just-
same way you are with Mom.
Just again, I don't want to. Although I would rather
No surgical mask required going to Dad's house.
Yeah, I would rather go to Dad's house over
Because it's clean, for one.
But that's it. Like if it was personality wise, like I might almost rather hang out with Mom because it's not as tense there, you know.
But it's
and
also
we're allowed to like just like rip into her, like we insult her constantly to her face.
Yeah.
And Vincent doesn't care. He doesn't say anything about it.
I don't think either of them recognize that we're doing it.
Yeah.
Like Vincent's all caught up in the internet and Jeopardy or whatever CSI is
At
on.
Dad's house, it's just like he tells you like the psycho shit that goes on behind closed doors. So no matter how normal it looks,
Yeah.
you know what's going on.
I can say fairly though that it's not that normal. Like it's so abnormal. Even so, like I'm not scared to sit on their couch, except for everybody's going to stare at each other in the living room. You know, at least with Moms, there's distraction. We can talk to Vincent about movies,
Right?
Or there's internet, whatever else. Dad, like, there's no TV in their living room. I'm not saying we need to rely on TV. I'm just saying when it comes to awkward situations, there are things you can do to lessen it.
Yeah, it's just sitting around and Dad and Debbie whisper to each other, "Do you want to hold her? No, she doesn't want me to hold her.
Yeah.
Go ahead, come on. You want to like
You're kind of grossing me out.
Yeah, and that's what the whole thing is. So it would be nice to have a TV, but if you had Mom's personality in that clean environment, then that's what I would choose ideally.
Yeah, but what about her? She'd still be drunk in her clean house.
Yeah, well, that's fine. At least the house is clean. At least the house is clean.
So really, it just comes down to Mom not having a clean house.
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole scenario was whose house would I rather take Sophie to?
Yeah. Okay. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm caught up. So staying at Mom's house, always awful. Like I never spend the night anymore. I used to sleep on that gross couch and wake up choking on floating hair. So obviously Sophie's never stayed there. You probably have never stayed at that house overnight.
No, I stayed at their apartment, which was pretty gross.
Yeah.
Not as gross as their new house because
No.
there was no dogs allowed.
But could you imagine, like, what if somebody needed to come and live with Mom? Wouldn't that be horrible? Wouldn't that be beyond belief? Nobody would even believe us if we said that.
How long did you live there with her?
Okay, I lived in the garage. I kept that thing spotless.
How could you even mention that without even?
Because I'm trying to make a
realizing
great
that you still
segue
live
into the
there?
Antonice stuff.
I got it.
All right,
You
don't
lived
shit
there.
on me. Let's
you
just
lived there. I lived in her apartment. Like I say, it was just as gross.
I
just
hit
no
some
dog.
bad times. I will never live there again. I will never visit there again. Let's go to Denny's. What's the big deal?
You're going on the 27th.
Oh yeah. So are you. Please let's commit to this right now.
Oh man, no go.
Alvina, I understand, will not want to go. She shouldn't have to go. But come with me, please.
The only way I would go is without Sophie, and how disappointing would that be for everybody?
Oh man, that'd be the ultimate fuck you.
It's not about me going.
But one of Mom's big pulls, and I don't know if it came across in the actual phone call, is her oldest sister, is it? No, her oldest sister is Annie, who is in a mental institution.
It's one
right?
of her older sisters. Mom
Right.
is the youngest.
Oh, yeah. Duh. So Antonice, we used to see, I'd say, maybe twice a year, like back
Yeah.
when we were kids. She lived in Susanville, California, which is famous for its prison and nothing else, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It gets mentioned in Tarantino movies,
It does.
that prison.
Oh, believe me, it's on that newspaper article is on every fucking wall in Susanville.
Oh, yeah, of course it is. Of which there are only
Banana
six
slugs
different
get a
walls
mention.
in Susanville. So that was our idea of California until we went to Disneyland, I guess, when we were 16. But so it was weird. We'd go out there. Our cousin Daniel that we've talked about.
We drive down the 14-hour drive or whatever. it
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Dad
Miserable.
would drive.
Always.
Never pull over to sleep. Always swerve off the road having fallen asleep.
We're probably brawling in the back seat over something retarded.
Yeah.
We need to fight more. We used to be so much more open about our feelings.
Yeah. There was one great trip we took later on. Remember in that van, that big van that Dad bought
Right after Dad had
post-divorce?
split up with Mom, and yet still strangely he was going to visit her
Right.
sister.
All of a sudden, he wanted to go visit her sister. Like he was just implanting himself in their lives, and he would always say,
And he had no interest up until that point.
"I don't know
in
who
her
this
family.
I don't know who this man is. All I know is that he was a black man." That's what he would say all the time,
Referring to our stepdad.
The only thing I know about him is that he's a black man. But yeah, like
That's still all I know about
wonder,
Vincent 8
I wonder
years
if
later.
Mom even thought to herself, like, why is he going down? But Chris,
I think
came
it was like to
along.
keep our family together. Like, just because your mom and I are divorced doesn't mean we won't go out to California. Meanwhile, he fucking hated it always when we did go.
Yeah.
And we had no interest,
He-
really. These
he-
are cousins that we were not used to hanging
When
out
we were
with.
kids, it was like the worst experience ever.
Always.
Because we were always getting yelled at by him, and
Yeah.
the drive was terrible. But now it was like a new drive. We brought along...
Was Uncle Danny still alive at this point or no? That last trip? He
I
must have
don't
been
know.
right on the verge, if not yet.
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember. That's sad.
I'm not sure. But Danny is Denise's husband, by the way. Denise's mom's sister.
Late husband.
We went
Respect.
down. We brought Chris, who we talked about on the Puppies and Gumdrops episode,
Sure.
and who never turned out to be a guest. He came down. We went and visited his cousin, your internet girlfriend.
Swirly T.
No, first we went to Susanville, picked up Daniel, our cousin, said, "Hey, why don't you come back to Tacoma
Spontaneously
with us?"
decided, why don't you hang out with us in Tacoma for like 10 days?
All of a sudden, we had like free reign of our house. Like you and I could make decisions like that. Dad got divorced and went nuts.
Yeah, well, by nuts you mean he just became a big softy
Yeah.
and wanted to please his sons, which we were not used to.
So we're like, "Hey, Daniel, come for a month." And like I remember while we were in California,
Was it a month? It was a month, huh?
Yeah. When we were in California, we went to someone's graduation or something like that. It might have been Devin's.
Yeah, I think either Daniel or Devon's.
Me and Chris had bought knives like at this army store.
I remember
And we
this.
were like brandishing the knives out in front of the high school, and a cop took them, and I was like, "Dad, this fucking cop." And like I was all of a sudden cursing in front of Dad, and he was just totally okay with it.
Yeah. It was a really weird time.
And he like went and talked to him. He's like, "Well, he said that you gave him a lot of attitude."
Oh, man, it's so weird thinking about that. But,
Yeah.
yeah, you remember when Daniel was in Tacoma, like staying with us for a month, and then we decided we were going to bust into the zoo after closing.
Yeah.
Remember this?
We did this with Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah. So we all sneak into, what was it, the Point Defiant Zoo?
Yeah.
After closing, because it was pretty cool just to walk around when you're not supposed to be there. And I guess there was security, but we didn't find out until the end. And then we saw a light go on in some office. And so we all, like, bailed and started running towards the car. And as we were peeling out, Daniel was driving. And I don't remember whose car it was, but we were all just speeding out of there. And he runs over a cat just enough where you can barely feel the thump under the car.
Uh-huh.
And then I look back and literally watch the cat slinker off to the side of the road, and its tail fell off.
What
Like,
happened?
totally separated that cat's tail.
Yeah, the tail definitely came off. What happened was we were with a Jehovah's Witness named Tanya P.
Mm-hmm.
And she was driving earlier in the night and got pulled over, and for some reason her license was suspended, and that's why Daniel was driving her car.
Oh, okay. Did she get a ticket for that? I know.
I can't remember. All I know is that like Daniel had just gotten his license in California, and his mom mailed it to him.
After it took him like 4 different times on the test. I remember
He was pretty old.
He was a bad driver.
We
dude.
still didn't have our licenses, but
So now apparently Daniel, well, she said he wasn't going to be able to make it, but these same cousins and mom's sister Denise, who lost her husband, I guess it's been a few years ago now. Apparently she can't afford to live at her house anymore, and just as a temporary solution, she's going to go live with mom at Grody House.
yeah.
I can't imagine it. Not only that, but
For months, for 3-4 months, something like that.
and what's her plan? Like, even when I saw Denise this most recent time, which was weird, she didn't really seem to have a plan. I don't know if she's looking for a job. She's old enough to be retired, but she also has no money.
Yeah, where would the money come from?
No, I know. So, like, it's obvious she has no plan, and she was already bitching about the Tacoma weather and wanting to be back in California. So I imagine she'll bail on this whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think she'll stay too long.
I'm surprised she's still there.
The plan it was to come. I was surprised that when we saw her, her plan was still to be there for like 4 months. Because even after 2 days, I thought she would give that up.
Yeah.
But her plan was to come to Washington and make enough money to be able to go back to Susanville and live there. So I don't know if like Washington has a really good lottery as opposed to the California lottery. Like I don't know what she's doing to make money.
Well, I overheard Mom and Vincent bitching that she was asking them for cigarette money a lot.
Really?
So she's like no cash, I think.
She brought her grandson with her, which I'm sure we'll get into, Peyton, and so maybe like he was only supposed to be here for 2 weeks. He's still there. We alluded to
And
that
how
in
old
the
is he?
phone
4
call.
years old?
Yeah. And so maybe she's like waiting for him to leave, and then she plans on going out and looking for a job or something like that.
That's the weirdest thing is...
But now he's not leaving until June 27th.
Yeah, there's obviously no plan. And it seems weird to me that Devin, nothing against her, she's my cousin, I don't know her that well.
Yeah.
She has some kids, but what's with her just shoveling off her son to live with her grandma on my mom's couch? Has she seen the house? I'm hoping Devin does show up to this thing and sees what Peyton's been living in.
I'm sure it won't matter to her. You don't think that there's
That's
parents,
amazing to me.
You don't think there's parents like this all over the world?
I know that there are. I'm just hoping Devin isn't one of those.
Wow. I mean, we're related to hundreds of people. One of them's got to be one of them. And I'm just talking like just cousins.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
We have cousins who are cousins and half siblings.
But where's he sleeping? Like, there's only one couch that Denise
That's
is...
true, by the way.
Is he sleeping? What?
That we have cousins who are cousins and half siblings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, Sean and Michelle.
Oh, okay, yeah. Is he sleeping with a dog? Is that eye crusty thing contagious?
Is he sleeping with Melissa? That would be...
Oh, God. You think?
I don't know. One of them has to be sleeping out in... I think both of them are probably sleeping out in the living room.
Okay.
Denise and... what's his name? Peyton are probably like sleeping together on the couch.
That is so gross. And it's gross, to me at least, that
You
he
feel
calls
sad
her mommy. I feel bad, too. Let's get right into like hanging out with him so we can talk about Peyton more.
The whole reason...
Peyton, I love you, man. I feel so bad for that kid.
Yeah. The biggest reason Mom wanted us to come was because Denise and Peyton were in town.
The biggest reason was so that she could... gush over Sophia the whole day.
Right.
But she used Denise all of a sudden being here as an excuse.
Right. And I think a lot of it was like, oh, Denise and her grandkids, that Denise has like 4 grandkids or something like that. between Devin and Diana. And so it's like, oh, she gets to spend all the time with her grandkids. She's coming here for 3 months with one of her grandkids. Like, I recognize that my voice really fucked up right there.
I didn't.
You know, I want to show her, like, a really cute grandkid, and, like, I want to be a grandma. She gets to be a grandma all the time. I want to show her about how I'm a grandma.
Yeah. And that's all it was like, but how grandma-like was she? She was just a mess.
Yeah.
I know that, okay, so the plan was we'll meet her, like, on some mutual ground here at the Seattle Center, because you were staying there anyway for that 2 days at my friend's house, who happens to live only a few blocks away from the Seattle Center.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the plan, and it was going to be an open area. We could make an excuse for why it could only be a couple hours, which was kind of fucked that we didn't give them a little advance warning on that, because Seattle's not that far of a drive from Tacoma. Never mind.
Yeah, and come on.
Who cares?
I'm bringing my kid around.
Yeah.
Just appreciate it.
So we make plans to meet them at 3:30, and you and I are at the house. We haven't drank at all, which is, I mean, we were solely responsible for your daughter at that point. So we were completely sober going in, although I really wish I'd at least had a joint for that walk there.
We smoked some pot.
Oh, yeah, that was the problem.
Yeah.
Usually it helps.
Pot with no beer, going into an awful situation.
Yeah. But usually, I guess it's just willingly putting myself into an awful situation, because usually pot will have a calming effect. But it really turned on me and made me paranoid because I did not want to see Mom.
Yeah.
So we had big plans
and
to meet.
Denise, who we hadn't seen, the last communication I had with Denise is a story for another time, but it was her, like, bawling me out on an answering machine, and Dad forcing me to call her back so that she could yell at me some more.
And that was, we should say, several years ago.
Yeah. But the last time I talked to her.
Yeah. So we had no idea what
and it should also be said that when this podcast started, Daniel was listening all the time. I don't know if he still is, but he was like our biggest supporter in the beginning.
Yeah, he was. Then he disappeared off of MySpace, so he disappeared from my life, essentially. I just remember us, like, freaking out the whole time, like, just taking our precious time. We're going to meet them at the big fountain in the middle. And I remember as we were walking up, like, I kept thinking I saw them, but I was just creating images in my own head. I was so unprepared.
We were trying to lighten the mood just a little. You came up with, like, trying to bet on what would happen.
We like to make wagers sometime as far as what's going to happen once we hang out with my mom. And I can only remember the one. I think I tried to bet you $5 that her T-shirt would be advertising some current ABC show that is awful.
And also that there was rum in the purse.
Oh, yeah, which turned out not to be true. I was actually hoping for some of that rum. I guess that was it. But every time it's like, oh, I can give another example of that, which I totally nailed. Was when I told her I had confirmed, yes, we're all going to meet you at the Seattle Center at this time. And then it was just after Mother's Day weekend. It was like 2 days after Mother's Day, and I predicted accurately that although whether it's Mother's Day or not, this was still going to happen. Every time I make arrangements to see Mom and say, yeah, maybe we should grab something to eat so I can stay away from your icky house, she always jokingly, air quotation, says, you gonna pay for me? Huh? Just kidding. Just kidding.
Just kidding. Always a just kidding.
But then there's always a just kidding once the tab comes at the actual table too. Like she's broke all the time, and I know how that is. Therefore, I should not be expected to pay for her and her husband and my sister. Like, you came out to see me. You arranged this. I'll pay for my own, but don't expect me to pay for everybody every time.
But this particular instance, she had the excuse of, oh, late Mother's Day, although she never made that joke to me. Mm-hmm. I guess if you sent her... She
knows better than to make those jokes to you.
If you sent her the Mother's Day text, though, which I already know you did...
That's my present.
That's you acknowledging that Mother's Day exists. I refuse to acknowledge that it even exists.
So you're just an idiot that doesn't know.
Yeah, right.
You've never walked into a Hallmark in May.
But I've said this before, but we grew up... We couldn't celebrate Christmas or birthdays or Halloween for all the years that it mattered, our entire lives. And then they just say, fuck everything, abandon us, whatever. I'm living in a house that isn't being paid for completely on my own. You escaped to Yakima and started hanging out way too much with certain Jehovah's Witnesses. and now all of a sudden we're supposed to celebrate holidays and like buy mom gifts too.
Yeah.
In exchange for ours, which are always shit. And we never did this growing up. Like, you can buy your parents Christmas gifts, but the only reason like you're even motivated to is because of how many they bought you before.
Right.
And what did we used to celebrate growing up? Only their wedding anniversary, which we don't celebrate anymore.
No, it'd be funny if we did.
When it was,
they both still think about it. When April 25th comes around, Dad's thinking, "What a fucking bitch," and Mom's thinking, "I'm drunk. I need to forget about this."
on April 25th of this year, when my manager was cashing my till out, I said, "Oh, it's my parents' wedding anniversary today." And he goes, "Oh yeah, how long have they been married?" And I go, "Oh, they're not anymore." Like I realized like I must have sounded like such a psycho pleading for help right then.
Yeah, I suppose so. Although I can't remember Mom or Dad's birthdays. I know the months, but I do remember their anniversary, and I always will because that meant presents for us.
It's August 24th for Dad and January 26th for Mom.
Oh,
we got to get back to this Seattle Center thing.
yeah. So we get up there to the fountain. We meet them. Aunt Denise. I hope she doesn't listen to this, but
she was looking what I expected.
See, I don't know what I was expecting. She looks a lot like Mom, for one.
I'm going to say that she's a little healthier than I expected. I expected like a skeleton.
Okay. I guess I almost did, too. She does look haggard, let's say.
Yeah.
She looks beat up by life. But at the same time, she looks a little more composed and put together than Mom. Like, she looks like she earned her body type, whereas Mom is just... belly's hanging out of her American Idol shirt. It's always awful.
Her shirt was so gross. It wasn't an ABC shirt, but her boobs
No,
were
I was
hanging
wrong
out.
on that one.
The moles on her boobs were hanging out. Her stomach was hanging out.
She's too old, and she's not even doing it to be fashionable. She just doesn't care enough about her image, I don't think. Because most of the time, you couldn't pull her out of her house when she's not working.
But, it's a put-together outfit in a sense. Like, it's a very loud blouse. She's got her gangster hat on.
Which, what is that
with
about?
Like, it's like white with glitter on it, gold glitter on it. So she chooses her clothes. It's not like she's throwing on just anything. She chooses her clothes. Be that an M&M store of Las Vegas denim jacket.
When I told Mom the first time that I was going to Las Vegas for the first time, "Oh, Nick, you got to check out that M&M store." And I walked by it. They only sell M&M related things. Who has that much fun at that store?
That's what Barry told me about going to New York. Make sure you check out the world's biggest McDonald's.
Well, that makes sense given Barry's stature. So I don't know if we'd made an arrangement, like how much time we were willing to commit to this, but we knew it wasn't going to be more than a couple hours.
We knew that. I thought they did. It may have been a miscommunication because right up to the second we were leaving, Mom didn't know we were leaving.
Oh, God, that was so sad. When you're like, okay, well, we're parked over here. Our excuse for leaving at the end, it turned out, was that you had parked in a spot that we had to get back to or else it was going to get towed.
Yeah, I kept saying we got to be back by 6. Really, it was like 6:40.
And then Mom, I felt so bad for her at the end because she's trying to hold Sophie, I'm sure, at this point. We're really jumping to the end here, but we'll go backwards. But when we said we had to go tend to the car, that was our cue to leave, whereas Mom's like, okay, well, we can watch Sophie while we wait. And we're like, oh, God, let's explain further.
No, we're just we're going back. We've got plans. But
we did have plans to record.
Yeah, and the 2-3 hours we were there, like, it was awful.
It was awful.
It was just, what do you want to do? Like, what were we going to do for any longer?
Yeah, it's a
we
Seattle
were going to
Center.
take them back to, like, your friend's house. And,
no.
Involve
in fact,
her in this. I saw Caleb. I saw one of our favorite cousins outside, and I, didn't talk to him because I didn't want to involve anybody else in this awfulness that was going on.
Our
Just
friend,
walking around, what do we do
Our
now?
friend, the place you were staying at, she actually said, and I won't say her name for safety, but she actually said she knew that I was making arrangements to see my mom, and she's been to Mom's house before.
Yeah.
She's also been at restaurants with Mom. She knows what Mom's all about. And she asked me, she says, I don't want you to be offended, but if you could not bring her back to the house once you're done, because she is only 2-3 blocks away. So I think we made a special point not to say where we were headed to, because she would have just, brought herself along, thinking we want to hang out with her and Melissa and Vincent all day.
Mom may have still been under the impression that I had a hotel room.
Oh, okay.
Which I did eventually, at one point.
So I think a lot of what we were doing was just trying to break up the time. Like, what's going to take up so much time? First plan was, let's go eat. You and I hadn't eaten yet, and I assumed because I'd made arrangements with Mom and mentioned something about getting dinner together, knowing that would eat up some time. Although it is humiliating to be at restaurant settings with them. But this was a food court, so it wasn't as bad. But then, so I took... like, we all stand around awkwardly for 10 minutes. I've said hi to Denise for the first time in 10 years. I got nothing else to say to her.
Yeah, we really emptied the cannon quick on, like, what we could say to Denise. What's Daniel up to? What's Devin up to?
Yeah.
What's Diana up to?
Are we out of kids? Okay.
Danny's still dead.
And Peyton's running around, our second cousin that I
Yeah.
barely knew existed.
He was pretty awesome, though.
He's pretty awesome.
Right from the get-go.
Yeah.
He had some Transformers Crocs on his feet. He was ready to
Did
rock.
he?
Yeah.
You never pointed those out to me.
I was going to mention them to him, but he liked you way better than he liked me. I was trying to teach him how
you
tall
liked me
the
better?
space-
That's because I had the quarters guy.
Yeah, I
when
know.
it came to the arcade.
But I gave him a big handful of quarters right at the very beginning. And I kept trying to get him to tell me how tall the Space Needle was, and I kept giving him the answer, but he would, like... I'd be like, all right, how tall is that? I already told him 605 feet over and over again. And then he'd go, cannot compute, and run away or something like that.
Cannot be true.
Why are you talking to me? He was fun right from the very beginning.
Yeah, I liked Peyton a lot. I feel bad for him because I don't know where he's sleeping. But
Yeah, and what did you say about him? He was the most well put together of anybody there,
yeah.
including us, because at least he was not high.
that's true. No, that's true. Out of
God, that was not a good high that day. I keep remembering that.
But out of that entire group, Peyton is the one, aside from you and Sophie, of course, that I could hang out with on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
I'd take him over Mom, over, I guess not Vincent, except for Vincent will get bored with me. So I thought we'd made arrangements to have dinner that night, and we could eat up an hour doing that, and then we'd be almost free.
Literally.
But then Mom tells me, oh, we got McDonald's right as we pulled in, because there's one near where they parked.
They had a whole day, too, to rev up for this, because apparently Mom pulled Melissa out of school.
Yeah.
And Melissa, 16-year-old that she is, was that Mom wouldn't let her go to school that day. Mom
Right.
said I couldn't go. She loves going.
Yeah, I
Who
know.
wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to get out of that house? Go to a nice, like, fucking retarded kid school and just do nothing
imagine
all
they're pretty
day.
cush, dude.
Go on field trips to Walmart.
So they'd all stuffed their face with McDonald's, and I was pissed because I was hungry, and I thought, oh, God, now what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So I, of course, selfishly decided, let's go eat anyway.
I was in such a shell that day, especially after having gotten high, that I felt bad for you because you kept being like, do you not want to eat? Like, should we not be eating right now?
I sound like such a naggy wife. I'm sorry.
No, it's not even that. Like, it was just that, like, I was going to be miserable no matter what we were doing.
Yeah. Well, that was clear. So there's this food court area where, like, and nobody's talking to each other the whole walk over. Vincent has already bailed twice because there's a bar, and he just goes in there, drinks a beer, and then comes back out and meets us. And I was so fucking jealous. I wanted to do it too, but you told me I couldn't.
I told you with my eyes.
Yeah.
I'll admit that.
Yeah, you yelled at me with your eyes.
I did not. I
was like, hey, I'm thinking about going off to get a beer. Oh, okay.
Man, would you want to be left there? Would you want to be left there?
I'm sorry that you brought your daughter. You could have gone to the bar too.
We could have switched off, definitely. That's what we should have done. Switch off with the daughter.
But by then, I just kept. I was literally counting down the clock. So I go and get a burrito, and sit back down at the table, and then I think you went off to go get some food. So I was, but Melissa, our little sister, who had just eaten McDonald's, and I'm sure like an asshole, she all of a sudden decides because she sees food, like she's not past this at 16 years old, because she sees somebody else eating, I need to eat too.
And she's doing like the really annoying like little kid thing that I remember doing about like, oh man, Nick's getting a burrito. I guess since I already ate, I can't get one too. Oh, that looks really good.
Yeah. God.
Mom, Nick's getting a burrito.
What kind of burrito is that? No, she really was doing those
But
things.
then when they finally succumb, pizza.
Yeah, so Mom instantly caves. Melissa eats a piece of pizza half an hour after her Big
Oh
Mac
my God,
Happy Meal.
two-handed, shoveling it in her mouth.
Oh, yeah. It
does not use a napkin.
It was
Doesn't
so
even
gross.
use her hands to wipe her face. She just doesn't wipe her face.
Should we remind people that she is mentally handicapped?
I said something about a retarded kid's school. So.
Okay, then they got it. But then, of course, Mom only accepts Melissa's plea for pizza because Mom's going to eat again, too.
Yeah.
As if her belly's not hanging out far enough. So she gets like this clam chowder bread bowl that she brings back to the table.
It was a food court. It was so ridiculous. She found like the most embarrassing thing in the place to buy.
And then we got to watch her eat it, which is horrible.
Oh, my God.
And I think your wife asked us the other night, but how does a bread bowl work?
I think that you eat it down a little and then you start tearing up the bowl.
Which she wasn't doing, though.
I didn't watch her eat it. I have no idea.
I was transfixed.
She was on my left, Sophie was on my right, and I turned in my chair.
My thought the whole time was, as I watched her go further and further into the bowl, like, she's thinking seconds and having Melissa grab some ketchup packets, fill that thing up, round 2.
And Vincent got some sort of Reuben Club.
Yeah, they all ate again instantly.
But it should be said that, like, the whole time there was, like, awkward, uncomfortable discussion about, like, well, how much is half a sandwich at that place? I don't know. How much is the pizza? How much cash do you have? Maybe Nick should pay for it. Just kidding.
And then, so Denise has enough sense to know she's not going to eat again, or she was also probably broke.
Yeah.
But she takes Peyton, our little second cousin that we just met, over to the ice cream place that was in that food court. And she gets him. I only know this from hearsay because she told the story when she came back. Because all I see when they come back is no ice cream, and Peyton looks pissed at the fucking world. His face is so scrunched up and unhappy. And I felt bad for him because, like we said, he's the one guy we can relate to. And so then Denise tells me the story, and they went to get the ice cream, and Denise paid for it. They handed it over to him. They just stepped away from the counter, and then he dropped it, like, just totally on the floor. So the guy saw it at the counter, much like that old McDonald's commercial.
It's so adorable. I love it.
So the guy hands him another ice cream cone, doesn't charge them for it. Maybe they get another foot away, and then he drops it again. And by that time, I think Denise is too embarrassed to ask for another one, and so he just doesn't get his ice cream. He fucked up twice in a row. So he comes back, and I hear this story, and dude, I just wanted to run away with him, like teach him things were okay. Because I've been that asshole. Like, I was such a klutz when I was a kid. I'm sure I've sacrificed ice cream cones the same way.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sure that we got yelled at for it if we ever did it. But
Oh, no kidding.
well, I was just gonna say, like, you know, Tracy would not have even let Tim have the second ice cream cone. I remember some story about, like, licorice and Tim. Tim cried because he couldn't get any licorice one year in school because the licorice was already sold out. Remember when school used to sell the rope licorice?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like grape. The grape was so delicious.
On Fridays, too.
Tim missed it once, cried, and so his dad said, because you cried about that, I'm never taking you to the Puyallup Fair again.
What?
And never did.
Uncle Tracy is amazing.
He's the worst dad and the best uncle. If you're us.
We sealed the deal then, episode 50.
By the way, that story came from Tim. I never heard that from Tracy. He may have a side of that.
All right.
Twitter it, but so eventually we get all done eating. We had been I think we had put Sophie on one ride with Peyton before then, some Dumbo ride where they spin around.
That was our next move to kill time after,
Yeah.
which was a brilliant stroke of genius on my part.
Well, yeah, like there were rides, but there was only a couple rides.
Oh,
But
I'm thinking of the arcade. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, yeah, that's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
Right next to the rides is like just a warehouse full of arcade games. And I think after like watching them argue about like how much does this sandwich cost, enough jokes about are we going to pay for it, I never wanted to step up and be like, oh, hey, do you guys want $20? Just because I didn't want it to come to that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we get to the arcade a little before everybody else. We're like, okay, we're going to go to this arcade. Mom finish up your disgusting platter. Throw it in the garbage,
And
for God's sake.
that's what I was thinking when we were all sitting there. Like, I could only stand it for so long. And so then we came up hey, we'll take Peyton, we'll take Melissa. Let's just get the fuck out of here
Yeah.
and go to the arcade.
And I know just
at least then there's lights and distractions.
and waiting
For me, I don't care about the kids.
waiting in line at Walmart. I always go, to like the little video game area with Sophie.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that she will just sit on my lap as long as it's like a racing car game.
Sure.
She'll just sit on my lap and be good while I play. So it was a good idea.
Yeah. And we ate up maybe another half an hour over there. I remember...
And we just gave Peyton all the quarters, so we didn't want him to feel like, oh, I only have enough for 2 games or anything like that.
Yeah, he really did love us, and all it took was quarters.
Yeah.
At one point within the arcade, Mom and everybody else had come to meet us, and she was really hands-on with Sophie. Sophie freaked out by her the whole time. Like, Mom just looks like a gorilla running towards her.
She got more comfortable over time.
A little bit. She eventually got her on the carousel.
It was still very aggressive,
Yeah.
Like, Mom was still always being very aggressive. But once you... See, that's the thing. If Mom had been calm, then by that time of the evening, Sophie would have loved her.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's only how long it takes.
And whenever Sophie loves to walk and
because I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But even in the food court, because remember it was like a big deal. Like, Sophie, dame besito, and she gives everybody a kiss, and she gave Mom one, and it was like, oh, we got to take a picture of this. Give Vincent the camera.
Disposable
we won't even
camera.
talk about his lack of disposable camera skills.
To be fair, there is one button.
This is what it turns out to be. Oh, no, I missed it. Sophie, give me another kiss. Dame besito.
And she's done with it by this point.
And so she does it again and again. There's like 4. On the 5th time Sophie's done, she won't do it. Oh, we never got a picture of it. And like I finally said to her, I was like, what does the picture matter? She gave you 4 kisses. Like, the kisses are the kisses. Why? I understand wanting to have a picture of that, but why is that the only acceptable end? Like, just leave her alone. Now you freaked her out again. Because now she'll never give you a kiss again.
Mom would drop like pity comments, like for the first hour when Sophie just didn't have anything to do with her.
She takes it so personally. She thinks that I've turned Sophie against her when Sophie is just a kid. I mean, she's a little baby.
A kid, but still capable of making her own decisions. And Mom's going about it wrong.
I cannot control my daughter.
No, I know.
All, so
I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
Definitely not her influences around other people.
Yeah. So whether or not Sophie eventually warmed to Mom, it took a little while. And at the arcade, like, she still was having nothing to do with Mom. And she likes to walk around. Whether you're holding her hand or not, she doesn't care. I guess she'd
prefer not.
Yeah. But then, like, so she'd be walking at her own pace, which is admittedly slow. And Melissa, the whole time, our little sister, just comes up to her and, tries to grab her hand and pull her in a new direction, tries to pick her up, is giving her kisses. Like, just leave her the fuck alone for a minute.
No one will let her just be.
I know. That was the main problem is, like, I've hung out with Sophie enough just every other weekend or whatever to know, like, I'm not going to fuck with her when she doesn't want to have anything to do with me,
Yeah.
Unless she's getting into knives or something. Then you got to step up. But, yeah, Mom and Melissa especially did not get that. And I remember at one point, like, you were okay enough, and this sounds lame, but I was nervous for Sophie. Like, at one point, they were all in the arcade, so it's just, walking around in a warehouse circle. And you said, yeah, okay, and Sophie started walking with Mom. Then I wander over there just to check on them, really. And they're, like, chucking skee balls like idiots. Melissa like an official retard. And, like, the whole time Sophie's hands are just up on the thing. And so I'm like, dude, she could really crush her fingers. And so I try and pull her away. And then Mom acts like she's all butthurt about it. Although she later did say, you are such a great Uncle Nicholas.
Yeah. Oh, look, Sophie likes Nick. Nick, you're really good with her.
She may as well being...
I miss my grandbaby so much it hurts. Then act normal.
I know. She may as well be wearing a really scary Halloween costume when she tries to pick up Sophie.